What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another Heart Over Height episode. Today we're going to be looking at 30 storylines ahead of the 2024-2025 NBA season. So if you do enjoy this video, do me a huge favor, smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, comment down below on your favorite storyline that you'll see on this list, and we'll have a discussion in the comments. So without further ado, let's get into this. So of course, it's going to give one per team. First up here, we have the Atlanta Hawks, Trae Young's future with the franchise. Now, of course, this one has been an interesting one, just as we've seen. They decided to trade DeJounte Murray. They moved away from giving Trae Young an additional star. They went younger, got Dyson Daniels. Of course, they got Larry Nance in that deal too, but Dyson Daniels is that key piece of why they moved off of DeJounte Murray, is just to move younger. Of course, they had the #1 pick in this year's draft. They have Jalen Johnson over there as well. Trae Young could be no longer a Hawk come soon, come the trade deadline. If things aren't working out and they have the right deal in place, there might be a move there where you see Trae Young on another team, i.e. you could be looking at the Spurs, you could be looking at the Lakers, something like that. Those two teams have been tied to him. Next up here, we do have the Celtics. Kristaps Porzingis' health watch is, of course, huge. Now, Kristaps is someone who hurt himself in the finals, but he played through the injury just to help the Celtics win the championship, of course. He's someone that he hasn't had too many full seasons just because he has dealt with injury. Now, of course, the Celtics do have some depth in the wing position to where it allows for, if he does need to go out for a few weeks or a month or so, it's not necessarily going to be super detrimental to the team. But long term, of course, the Celtics do need him on this roster if they are going to look to repeat. Next up here, the Brooklyn Nets, and it's the liquidation. It's just finding trade assets or players to then go get trade assets, etc. i.e. they show a picture here of Cameron Johnson, who should get them at least one first-round pick, if not another, just based off today's market. And then someone like Dorian Finney-Smith, also shown here. Cam Thomas might be an interesting piece as well. Team might want to look for to bring off the bench as a six-man role as a spark plug. And then who knows about Nicholas Claxton? Nicholas Claxton might have some value if a team gets desperate and wants to pay for a center. So yeah, the Brooklyn Nets just looking to retool, full rebuild, just tank for Cooper Flagg. Next up here, we have the Charlotte Hornets, and it's LaMelo Ball's redemption arc. Now, that's just because he's just been injured season after season after season. We need to see something out of LaMelo Ball. As you guys have known on this channel, I have been a person that if he doesn't play like 65 games this season, then the Hornets need to look to move off of him. It's the same thing similar to like Zion, where you can only invest so much time and energy into a player before your other, you have Brandon Miller on this roster. You are young, but like you can't just be stuck in this like middle gap period where you're constantly the 8th through the 12th seed. You need to either be bad or, go all in and be good. Next up here, Chicago Bulls off-season skepticism. Now, this, of course, is not finding this is talking about is not finding a suitor for someone like Zach LaVine or Vucevic. They found a suitor for Alex Caruso, but, of course, there was just question marks as to the value there. And then also DeMar DeRozan's deal. It was just a bit questionable. And then re-signing Patrick Williams is such a massive deal when he hasn't really proven too much. It's just a lot of question marks there for Chicago. Next up here, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers front court trade watch. I've said it before. I think that they need to make a decision with one of the two bigs here, Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley, as well, in my opinion, one of the two guards, Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland. I think when you re-sign Donovan Mitchell, of course, you kind of made the name that it should be Darius Garland. And then same thing here. I think that you keep Evan Mobley and then you go trade Jarrett Allen. He's going to give you some decent value. Now, of course, Evan Mobley might give you more just because of his younger, attribute that he has over Jarrett Allen, but both aren't going to be insane trade value. But in today's market, who knows? Rudy Gobert got you 5 first-round picks, so who says one of these two couldn't? Next up here, the Dallas Mavericks. The missing piece, is it Klay Thompson? It's just a big question mark here. They, of course, got rid of some guys, Derrick Jones Jr., Josh Green. They brought in other players like Klay Thompson in. to really help out that three-point shooting that was an issue against Boston in the finals. And is Klay Thompson going to showcase a little bit of what he used to be? That is a huge thing for them. Here we have the Denver Nuggets youth movement within a championship chase. Just showing Strother here, Christian Braun, two guys that are looking to take over that spot of Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, as well as bringing in Russell Westbrook. Now, those three need to follow up, what Kentavious Caldwell was able to do, which was that 3-and-D option for them. As well as, I think, another thing should be that Jamal Murray health. What are we going to see out of him? He didn't look good for Team Canada. Now, does that mean a lot? Or is it something that we should just brush past and he'll be just fine? Here we have the Detroit Pistons. Who are the building blocks? Now, that's, of course, looking at there are some tradable pieces on this roster. Do you believe in Jaden Ivey? Of course, Cade Cunningham is your guy, we assume. Isaiah Stewart should be someone they're looking to move off of just because, you got to think like, he's not really fitting the whole stretch big thing that you want to do. And then, Jalen Duren's there. He seems like a solid option for them, but could he be on the trade block as well? Here we have the Golden State Warriors, Stephen Curry's ongoing wait for a co-star. You're hoping, of course, if you're a Warriors fan, that Jonathan Kuminga, this is the year that he finally pops. If not, it's just another question on who's going to be replacing the production of Klay Thompson, the Kevin Durant that they used to have, but it's not going to be Draymond. We know that. Is it Podziemski? Like I said, Jonathan Kuminga. Could it be a Moses Moody? I highly doubt the Moses Moody one, but Kuminga looks good. Looks like this is his make or break year for that boom or bust kind of stardom that we see. Here we have the Houston Rockets. Are they ready for launch? It seems like that they have a lot of pieces on this roster. Just will they fit together? Is Jalen Green the right option? Is Alperen Sengun a long-term person for this roster? Then their bench. They've got a lot of youth on this bench. Are they ready to take that next step in the playoffs and make a big leap in the playoff standings? Here we have the Indiana Pacers that are climbing the ladder. Now that's just talking about the fact that they were able to retain a lot of their valuable pieces, i.e. re-signing Pascal Siakam. Getting Tyrese Halliburton under that huge contract and everything was important as well. And just keeping Miles Turner, one of their best players in the playoffs. Just another year together with Rick Carlisle. It's going to be huge. The Pacers should be really good this year. Here we have the Los Angeles Clippers, and the big title is what now? And of course, it's just a question mark of your roster doesn't look super competitive to where you can compete for a top spot in the West, but it also, you can't be bad because you don't have your own picks. So you're like, okay, well, what do we do? Do we go all in and trade? Do we try and just make it work, see what Kawhi can do with this roster? Will Kawhi even play? Same thing with James Harden. Their health history is a big question mark. Here we have the Los Angeles Lakers. JJ Redick's impact is a huge question mark. I also think another thing is going to be LeBron's ability to shoot the three-point shot. And I think JJ Redick's impact is going to help that out a lot. Of course, they drafted Dalton Knecht. They didn't do too much outside of that. They drafted Bronny James, but he's a second-round pick. I'm not going to touch on Bronny James and expectations for him until I see something out of him, just because he is a second-round pick. He went 55th overall. The expectation of any other second-round pick is nothing. So to be expecting something like that out of a 55 overall pick shouldn't be there. Here we have the Memphis Grizzlies hiding in plain sight. A few years back, they won 51 games. Then Ja obviously has this outside the court stuff. He then gets injured, everything like that. The Grizzlies get injured. They slide down to one of the bottom tiers in the West. And now they are back fully healthy. Could they be back to what they were? It's a huge staple year for them, I think. I think if they're not, do they, if you're the GM of the Grizzlies, do you give them another year after this? Or do you decide, okay, we need to be tweaking the roster, move off of someone maybe like a Jaren Jackson Jr. just because he gets in so much foul trouble, or maybe you get rid of someone like Desmond Bane if it's really not cooking for you just because he does have a negative wingspan. Here we have Jimmy Butler's fate. Now, this year is a telltale sign of what the Miami Heat are going to do about Jimmy Butler, as he is up for contract. He wants a big bag, of course. And do you believe in Jimmy Butler giving him another 4-year deal? He is deciding not to sign an extension, but that doesn't mean he won't try and sign a big contract with them down the road. Now, of course, does that mean that you try and trade him, and then that team that trades for him hopefully re-signs similar to what the Pacers did? Or is it something else that, it's just going to be they ride it out this year, they might be bad, they tank a little bit, and they get a better, get a better pick in the draft? Here we have the Milwaukee Bucks, and it is really now or never. It is Dame and Giannis. Brook Lopez is old. Chris Middleton's getting old. This roster is old. That's just what you can say about it. They're not getting any younger. Giannis will be okay, but the rest of this roster is just, it's old. So you're going to want to try and win games now, and the problem with that is the fact that all the other Eastern teams are way better than they once were. So the Bucks are in a tough spot. They've got all the opportunity in the world. They've got one of the best point guards in the league. They got one of the best power forwards in the league. I mean, put those two together. Hopefully they can figure it out with another year under their belt. But, of course, Doc Rivers is a huge question mark, too, in the playoffs. He's been, other than his one championship run, he hasn't done too well. So here we have the Timberwolves clearing the last hurdle. Now, that's just getting past the Mavericks to get to the finals, or getting past that last team in the Western Conference Finals to get to that finals point. I think the roster is geared for that. They're ready to make that leap, especially after Anthony Edwards being in, playing for the Olympics and everything. I think that's going to help him a lot, just showcasing that he can be that guy. I think we're going to see another step out of Anthony Edwards. Here we have the New Orleans Pelicans with Brandon Ingram's future. Now, it's just been a huge question mark on whether or not you trade the guy or not. Do you just continue with him, or do you let someone like Trey Murphy or Herb Jones flourish? It's just an interesting aspect as they gauge their future with this roster. Here we have the New York Knicks with Julius Randle's fit. That's something I've talked about time and time again, just whether or not they're going to be trading him. He does have a likable contract for another team, could make it easy to deal out. I don't think they're going to be expecting too much in return, just as they're ready to just win now. They're ready for a win now player. You might look to just try and get like a backup center. I could see someone like Miami looking to get a deal done for a guy like Julius Randle, especially with the question marks around Jimmy Butler's future. Here we have the Oklahoma City Thunder, and it's the acceleration. This is just like Minnesota. They are also engineered to start winning now and going to the finals. They had the best offseason, drafted Nikola Topic, who tore his ACL, of course, but he could, before the ACL tear, he was one of the top 5 picks in this draft. They then trade for Alex Caruso. Of course, they didn't give up too much in Josh Giddey to affect their overall lineup. And then, of course, you brought in Isaiah Hartenstein, too, to be that big body bruiser when they need it, when they go up against the Jokic's and the Embiids. Here we have the Orlando Magic finding more perimeter punch. Now, of course, I do believe that KCP is a great player that helps them stretch the floor. I do think that they could go out and get one more big, one more three-point shooting, maybe like a center that can stretch the floor a little bit, can come off the bench, i.e. Miles Turner would be ideal, but they're not going to be trading for him. But just someone of his mold, you could say maybe even Brook Lopez coming off the bench, because you do have Wendell Carter. And then similar to like the Oklahoma City Thunder, that gives you some adaptation there for when you do face a smaller team, or when you go up against those bigger teams, you can bring in Brook Lopez. Here we have the Philadelphia 76ers, and it's just Paul George's addition. I think that's the 76ers are ready to take that leap. They are ready to go. They've got their big three. They've got Tyrese Maxey. They've got Paul George. They've got Joel Embiid. Of course, they added depth too. They brought in Caleb Martin. They brought in Andre Drummond. They've got a lot of pieces here that they just need to string together now. Next up here, we have the Phoenix Suns, and it is the point guard upgrade. They brought in Tyus Jones. They've retooled the bench a little bit. It now allows for some adjustment. They'll probably look to possibly bring Grayson Allen off the bench, just because you don't necessarily need to start him. You might even, depending on the roster that you're going up against, you might look to start him, but that means that you'd have to bring like Tyus Jones or even Bradley Beal off the bench. Here we have the Portland Trailblazers tanking from the start. This roster doesn't look great. Someone that they need to look to deal is DeAndre Ayton, of course. Anthony Simons probably needs to go. Jeremy Grant could be a great trade piece for them. There's a lot of potential for tank here, and the roster's not good right now. It's not. You traded for Denny Adbiha. Matisse Thybulle nothing to write home about. Of course, you got Shaden Sharp. You got Scoot Henderson. Hopefully, he has a better year. Overall, though, this roster, it's not fantastic. Somebody has to take a good leap. Somebody's got to take the next step. Next up here, the Sacramento Kings, and it's DeMar DeRozan's fit. I've talked about how I don't love the deal to go get DeMar DeRozan. Now, of course, I think that he could fit. I just question the defensive side of ball, especially when you're going up against these high-powered offenses in the Nuggets, in the Thunder, in the Warriors. You know, those guys that are going to be putting a lot of points on the board, you got to be able to defend the ball, especially in the playoffs when the game starts to slow down. Next up here, the San Antonio Spurs, Victor Wembanyama's takeover. This is a year a lot of people are banking on Victor taking a huge sophomore season jump. And to be that defensive player of the year as well, Vegas has him finishing 10th in MVP odds. So that's something that's huge. I do expect a big leap out of him. Do I think it's playoff contention? Possibly play in, but I don't know if they are playoff lock, quite yet. They're not ready to go to the 6th seed per se, especially with all the other teams that are contending as well. I think that they're right around that, 8, 9, 10, 11 seed. Here we have the Toronto Raptors building a base. Now, they do have a solid young core here. Emmanuel Quickley, Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, Jakob Poeltl. There's some decent pieces here that they could make some potential out of. I think that they could also be a destination for one of these stars, these disgruntled stars, i.e. like a Jimmy Butler. Like, Jimmy Butler looks at this roster and he's like, Kawhi did something similar where he moved over to a roster like Toronto, where they had Pascal Siakam, who you can compare him to Scotty Barnes. They had Fred VanVleet, a younger dynamic guard, i.e. Emmanuel Quickley. Not saying they play the exact same way, but just, that's, and then OG Anunoby, similar, i.e. RJ Barrett. So Jimmy Butler joins a roster like this. That's a deep playoff contending team right there, in my opinion at least. I think that this is a place that could be a scary roster in a heartbeat if a disgruntled star were to go over there. Here we have the Utah Jazz. It's the second to final team, finding a focus, and it's just finding what they need to focus on this year, whether it is the tank or are you going to go for a guy like Brandon Ingram to try, because of course you can't trade Lauri Markkanen until the offseason. Now it's like, are you looking to win now or are you kind of more in the tank mode? It's just a huge question mark. Is Keontae George part of your future, or do you try and trade him as a tradable asset, etc.? So last but not least, the Washington Wizards, they do need to get something going. I think that this shouldn't even be just getting Alex Sarr going. It should be getting something going, as in Kyle Kuzma, Jordan Poole, Alex Sarr. I mean, you name it, Koulibaly, or however you, Bilal Koulibaly, that's how you pronounce his name. Just something has to go right for Washington this year, I think. So overall, these are just some expectations we have going into the 2024-2025 season. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. All right, guys, it's been another Heart Over Height episode, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.